just 6 o'clock, and I will call this meeting of the Board of Trustees work session to order, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all very much. We will have, this is a work session, so there's no public comment at this point unless, did we have anything that was open for public comment? Okay, then I think we can go right to the board presentations. And the first item is the financial statements by our auditor. Is he here or is he joining us by Zoom? Okay. Sage, can you let him in, please? Hello, Trustee McLaughlin. Is he there, Sage? Okay, thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, you are live now, I think, and welcome to the Village of Southampton's work session. And Julie, are they going to go ahead, or are you going to say anything first? Okay, then the floor is yours. Can they hear us? Oh, there you go. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board of Trustees. My name is Jeff Rowley. I'm the audit partner for the accounting firm of PKF O'Connor Davies, which is your town auditors, your village auditors. And I have with me audit director, Jennifer Clark. So with further ado, I will make this fairly quick. And I promise I'll be through this in about 10 or 15 minutes tops.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Just a quick agenda for my portion of the meeting today. We're going to go through the audit status, the responsibility of us as your auditors, the responsibility of you as management. We'll go through it quickly, audit scope and approach. We'll go through some financial highlights, and then we'll go through some required communications. Audit status. The audit is done. We're talking about the audit for the year ending May 31st, 2023.
Yep.
All the audit areas have been addressed and substantive work has been completed. The only thing we're waiting on to issue the financial statements is an updated legal letter from counsel. I know Mrs. Clark is working on that with one of the outside attorneys. And then we need the signed representation letter. Jen, do we have the signed letter back?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. So those are the only two things that are open in order to issue this financial statement. We did meet with the Budget and Finance Committee on 2 occasions. One is the opening meeting that happened on November 8th, 2023. And then last week on May 13th, we met with the Budget and Finance Committee. We went over in detail.
You mean February 13th?
What did I say?
May.
Oh, I'm sorry. May 13th. 1 week ago today.
February.
We met with the Budget and Finance Committee, and we went over the report in detail, and I appreciate their input and interest. This is just some of our responsibilities as your auditors, forming an opinion on the financial statements based on U.S. generally accepted accounting principles, planning and reforming the audit, considering internal control. We do not render an opinion on internal control, but we consider it for purposes of determining audit procedures, conducting the audit with professional skepticism, and evaluating the presentation of the financial statements and the supplemental information in relation to the financial statements as a whole. Small responsibilities: communicating significant matters, overseeing the financial reporting process, all significant risks, considering all significant deficiencies and material weaknesses identified in the audit, Any fraud or illegal acts that we come across in our audit, we are required to communicate those to you. We're happy to communicate we did not come across any of that activity. And the process used by management to formulate particularly sensitive accounting estimates, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail a little bit later. Some responsibility review between management and those charged with governance is selecting appropriate accounting policies, fairly presenting the financial statements in accordance with U.S. GAAP, complying with laws, regulations, procedures, and contracts and grant agreements, and obviously you are required to provide all financial records and related information to us as your auditor. You are responsible for setting the proper tone at the top and maintaining and encouraging honesty and high ethical standards, and designing and implementing policies and internal controls to prevent and detect fraud. These are just some of the areas that we consider significant: cash, revenues and receivables, accounts payable, financial statement reconciliations, payroll, capital assets, debt service. The financial statements produced and show a result of a net position increase of $5.1 million for the year ended May 31st, 2023. This is in the governmental activities, which is the government-wide financial statement. That's compared to a $2.8 million increase in the prior year. Overall net position was a minus $35 million in governmental activities. And we've spoke about that in the past, and we spoke about that in great detail with the Budget and Finance Committee at the various meetings we had with them. And that deficit there does not indicate a financial stress being borne by the village. It's a product of the accounting principles used and the fact that long-term liabilities are included in that statement. And the village runs its finances on a year-to-year basis based on budget. This is some of the changes in various funds. General fund balance increased by 18% of $3.9 million. Capital projects and special revenue funds also increased slightly. All fund balances increased by $4 million during the year. And again, this is on the fund basis or the modified accrual basis. Fund balances by category: non-spendable, which is prepaid expenses; restricted, which is largely assets that are put aside in the LoSAP program; assigned fund balance, which is the fund balance in the capital projects fund, $7.7 million; and the unassigned fund balance, which is all in the general fund, is $17.1 million. Some budget highlights: revenues in the general fund were over budget. The actual was over budget by $3.9 million, mostly due to departmental income, which is building fees, produced a positive result. There was a positive result of almost $1 million in state aid due to mortgage tax coming in higher than expected. And then there was, due to the higher interest rates, about a $600,000 positive variance on interest income that the town earned on its cash reserves. The expenditures run the budget by $1.3 million, and that is primarily in the area of employee benefits, public safety, which is the police, transportation, and general government support. Final budget included a deficit of $1.6 million. That was $1 million that was an increased planned deficit that happened during the year, and roughly $556,000 in prior year encumbrances that were rolled over to the current year. And as you see there, unassigned fund balance was $17.1 million, which is roughly 51% of the ensuing year's general fund expenditures. So, that is a very positive level of fund balance. I think it's extremely healthy. And if I was going to go off the record with you for a minute and outside the budget, outside the audit,
Only if you're going to say good things.
Well, I think it's a prime opportunity with 1% of fund balance there. I think it's a prime opportunity to take some money into a capital reserve for the future. You could easily do that, and still keep a healthy level of fund balance. And we do know that you have some police retirements that are coming up, and some other retirements that are gonna require some payouts. So those are just some things that are coming down the pike. It's also coming down the pike is some new accounting standards. GASB 96, you have GASB 87, which is the leases. This is the next layer of that process, which is the subscription-based technology arrangements. I don't really think it's gonna have a tremendous impact on the village, but nonetheless, the village will be adopting it in the ensuing year. This is just some more required communications. I'll go over these very, very quickly with you. You know, we categorize these by auditor's responsibilities under professional standards and plan, scope, and timing of the audit, qualitative aspects of accounting practices in various categories, accounting policies being one of the major categories. And I'm happy to say that no matters have come to our attention that require us to inform you about the effect of significant accounting policies being controversial or emerging areas which there is lack of authoritative guidance. Likewise, there's no matters that came to our attention that require us to inform you about methods used for significant and unusual transactions in the financial statements. Accounting estimates, we went over this in great detail with the Budget and Finance Committee. Some of these major estimates, which are fairly large numbers, is depreciation expense. Depreciation is an estimate based on the fact that its lives are estimated. Compensated absence, there's assumptions in there. GASB 68 with net pension asset liability, the push down of the asset and the liability from the state down to the local governments. The low SAP that I mentioned. And then of course the other post-employment benefits, what we refer to as OPEB liability is a tremendous number, $50 million liability that's on the government-wide financial statements, which is significantly down compared to just 2 years ago. It was $85 million 2 years ago. So the things that drive that, in case in case you're considering why that changed so dramatically, one of the big drivers is the increase in interest rates. So if you have a liability that's due in the future and you have a zero interest rate environment, you essentially have to put those same funds away today to get to that liability in the future. So the discount rate used to calculate the OPEB liability 2 years ago was 2%, and now we know it's roughly 4%, so it's roughly doubled. So the higher the interest rate goes, there's an assumed rate of return with that money. So you have to put less money away today to get to a liability in the future. That's that was the big driver of that. That number is determined by your actuaries, who is sound actuaries, and of course Jeff. So they provide that report. The important thing here is that we encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management related to the performance of the audit. They've been a pleasure to deal with. These are just some more comments. One of the significant things is significant areas discussed with management prior to retention, opinion shopping, and none of these matters discussed in our responses thereto were a condition to our retention as your auditors. There's some information on some corrected and uncorrected misstatements. There was 2 small prior period adjustments related to reporting an art collection that had previously not been reported, and a small adjustment to recognize some revenue for road work in the prior year. These are relatively minor. There is here, I will not go through this, or you will hate me by the time I'm done. These are just some comments that we came across during our audit. This is an example of the management rep letter that management will be signing prior to us issuing our financial statements. And that's it. So I will open the floor to any questions the mayor or the board of trustees has.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate your diligence and your team's diligence with our audit. Glad that there was nothing glaring that you found in our financial statements. But I'm going to ask the trustees here if they have any comments. I know Len has worked diligently alongside our treasurer, so I'll turn it to trustees Ananti.
Jeff, just one quick question. Do the delays in the management letter and the legal opinion, will that preclude us from accepting the results of the audit this evening?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We're ready to go. Those charged with governance, which is the, Budget and Finance Committee, has accepted this. So it's, it's ready to go. I know Mrs. Clark will be making a call tomorrow to see, and she may require some help from the village on just one cleanup item relative to a follow-up with an outside attorney. So we may use some help. I know she's trying to wrap that up, and it's been a little difficult to get a response on that, but that will be required. And then it's just the perfunctory signing of the rep letter, and then we're ready to go.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
Trustee Aresta?
I'm good. We went through,
Trustee Brown?
I'm fine, thank you.
very
Trustee Sue?
clear, and thanks, Jeff, for the report and doing it in right on time. We got nervous there that it was going to be a little bit delayed, but thank you for bringing it on time.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think there are no more questions from the board, so we just want to again thank you very much for your diligence and your work on this, and we certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the input of you and the Board of Trustees, as well as the Budget and Finance Committee and their involvement. They're very attuned and very sharp on finance matters, and that's very refreshing for us. I'd also like to say and thank Mrs. Cagle-Betts and Ms. Grudop for their participation in the audit and their total cooperation. And I understand that we'll be losing Mrs. Cagle-Betts very soon, and we bid her a healthy fair adieu. And I believe that you're in very capable hands with Ms. Grudop. And I would say that youth and soundness of mind are not mutually exclusive, so I think you're in good shape.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
We appreciate it.
Thank
again.
you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
And
All
thank
right.
you, Jennifer.
Bye-bye. Okay, next up is 71 Hill Street, update from John Bennett of Bennett and Reed.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here this evening. My name is John Bennett, Bennett and Reed, 212 Windmill Lane, Southampton, New York. We're here for our request for amendments to a prior approval to a resort hotel complex on 71 Hill Street. Dee Gotthoff and Terry Moan, the project principals, are here with us this evening, as is John David Rose, of course, so everyone knows, and Scott Rose, the project architects. So I think some of the board members are aware of what we've been trying to get through here on this. This is an amendment to a prior approval by this board, but a significant difference, we think, not only in terms of architecture, which is a marked difference, and I think a very marked improvement, but also in the fact that this layout, which Scott and John are going to talk about in further detail, but I view it from some of the important and salient legal points of view. This actual application, unlike the prior applications, conforms with all village dimensional requirements. So there's no need for any variance relief, which candidly, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, but something that I saw was deficient from the prior plans. There's no other way to beat around it. There are two village code provisions which we think are probably more appropriate for the village business section proper, but nevertheless they pertain, because this is properties in the village business district, that requires merely a 3-foot setback from the street, which the prior plan did not have. This plan does that. and also requires that the building take up 90% of the frontage, which the prior plan did not have, and this plan does have. The good thing about this plan, therefore, is there's absolutely no need for any variance relief. There's no need to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And if you look at the case law generally, and actually the code, the New York State Village Law, if you can manage without too much, in what they used to call practical difficulty, to conform with what the code says, the law tells you to do that. So not to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals if none is necessary. So although elongated, we think it's been handled in a very, very beautiful way. And John's going to show you some of the inspiration for that. But nevertheless, it is a creature of the requirements of the village code that the building take up 90% of the street frontage, and also it's pushed towards the street because the village code requires that we be no greater than 3 feet from the property line. So again, no variances. We've been very reactive to prior comments from the board, not only on this application. There was a little bit of a discussion with some of the board members, but also I did sift through some of the various prior hearings on the prior meetings subsequent to this board's approval on the applicant's trips to the zoning board, planning board, and architectural review board. So what we've done is try to distill all that and come up with an application that creates the least problems possible. I'm very glad, as always, to be working with John David Rose. If there's any architect out here, and I know I'm not just saying this because you're here, John. You know I feel this. John understands. I mean that sincerely because it's very important. John understands the architectural history and aesthetic of the village of Southampton, and the proof is in his many works, which have gained acceptance not only by the Board of Architectural Review, but by others. So John tackled this. John and Scott tackled this and came out with something that's clearly within the Southampton Village vernacular, which is not easy to do. The plan, really important, does provide for on-site sewage treatment, and that's an indisputable environmental benefit, which grants an enormous nitrogen reduction, even from the existing uses on this property, which are, of course, conforming in terms of the health department requirements when they were built. But we're going to have an on-site sewage treatment plant. I know there's back and forth about how long the sewage district will come up. It just can't wait for that to happen. So we're going to provide what they used to call a package plant right on the site, which again is an enormous nitrogen reduction issue. This plan provides, contingent upon its approval, for cross-access. It does not provide for cross-parking, and I think if you speak to your council, cross-access is, I think, in a state of flux. We do have a lawsuit against the village pending regarding the cross-access issue, but we've been adjourning that. We've been quite candid that if everyone can come to some sort of agreement on how to go forward here, we will that lawsuit will go away as it relates to cross-access, and we'll grant cross-access. Now, how is the cross-access lined up now? Interestingly enough, in exchange for a parking variance, I call it the La Caressa building. I'm sorry, but everybody knows where it is. Yeah. There is a cross-access agreement coming from Windmill Lane that gets you to the movie theater building. Now, there was an agreement between the village on that lapsed, but for many, many years there was a cross-access and parking agreement on the village. I'll leave the village planning board and everything to.
You mean from the movie theater parking lot to 71 Hill Street, the back of that
well,
building that's
it
existing?
gave, for whatever reasons, it gave access to either side.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so yes.
It started at Windmill, and then you could actually go from Windmill, you could actually get to 71 Hill Street.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. We did meet with, we were very, very careful because we was concerned about emergency vehicle access and fire access. And, based upon doing this for years, one of the first people we met with was Dean, because I know he will say, "Thanks for bringing me the site plan," after it's been in the works for 90% of the time. So we wanted to meet with him first, and I think he's satisfied with this. But of course, he's going to have to. It would have to be a more formal referral to him. But we did design this site plan in direct response to Dean's comments, and of course, we can work with him with any additional comments, and we're confident we can meet those. This would be a resort hotel in a village that sorely needs it. People are always saying to me, it's strange, the village, it's this beautiful place. I'd like to have overflow. I can't fit, I have a house here, but I can't fit people who are coming. There's very limited place for them to stay. So I think not only would it be a benefit for the existing residents, but it'd certainly be a benefit for the downtown business district. So again, this iteration is designed to complement the village design, and we believe the Architectural Review Board either will be pleased or should be. No variance is required. And that was really important because the last time the board approved this, it then went to other boards. And there's no way to beat around the bush. The way I saw the process has happened after that, they took the plan that you approved, and then they started twisting and turning it based upon elements that quite candidly weren't in certain instances, within their remit. Mm-hmm. So, but nevertheless, we did listen to a lot of the stuff, whether or not that was within particular boards' jurisdictions, and this is what we've come up with. We're going to ask you to put this on for a public hearing at the end of this session, if you would. But I think it's time to let John and Scott present what we think is a great plan. John?
Thank you. Should I turn this one around as well?
Yes, and you should turn the microphone towards you so people hear it better. Gotcha, Sage.
So, one of the things that's always important is where'd you get your inspiration from? Other than 40 years of being in the business. I wanted to take a look at some buildings that I'm a big fan of McKinley and White, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of the works that they've done in Newport. And the reason this is important, can you see those okay?
Not quite.
Really.
Not really.
I'm going to pass
Maybe
them
you
up,
could pass
and
them.
then perhaps we'll put them up.
And as sort of a dilettante in this stuff, in terms of architectural history, it's sort of neat because, as everyone knows, I can't remember the name of it. Two houses down, 2 lots down, right on Hill Street.
The Village Lodge.
No, Whitefield.
Yes,
Oh, Whitefield.
There's a name for it.
Whitefield condominiums, but that was a McKinley and White building,
Yes, Whitefield condominium, the Orchard.
The Orchard.
It's a James
The Breeze
yeah,
House.
which is a true.
And back in the day, I worked on that building with Peter Paul Muller. We did
Really?
the full circle. Yeah.
Wow.
So what's important there is the scale. You look at the one in particular, you'll see, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's the tennis pavilion in Newport.
The casino.
It's a
Yeah,
great.
it's a great spot.
It's a great spot.
They have great eggs Benedict
It's big.
there with lobster on top.
It's very big. It goes on, it's a
Yeah.
block,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly.
And the architecture is of this style. It's the shingle style. It's the materials that I've always been a fan of that we've used throughout the village. It gets along with, quite frankly, everything. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take those back and put them here so that you can
Yeah.
put them on the screen.
That must be this. Yeah, the back one.
That wasn't part of it.
Is that
No,
it?
that's the agenda.
No, it's his agenda.
Oh.
I handed a little too much.
Yeah.
Tell me how the best way to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This one in particular is quite nice. This one's interesting because it blends the new and the old here.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see, in this one in particular, you can see where we're going with this. Certainly not copying it, but they did a really great job. Here's how it turns the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So when we describe the site, you're all familiar with it. The clock tower's over here.
Right.
In this plan, everything gets removed. Sorry about that, thank you. The clock tower comes down, I'm sure you'll miss it. Those buildings get removed and the building wraps around and comes down this way. As John said, we met with Dean. That was the first person we spoke with because it drives the bus. Parking and how you fight a fire. Not that we'll ever have one, but those types of things are critical in your design of your building. So we talked with him about coming in, and that this area here, it almost functions as a porte cochere, which is seen right here. It breaks that up, it breaks the massing of the facade up, but it also allows trucks to come in and go through, and if there were ever emergency, to properly fight fires. So that was one of the drivers.
And it's high enough for the fire
Yes.
truck. Yeah. Okay.
That's the first question I asked.
Good. Good.
Good question, good point. Yes, we did check into that.
It is still high enough.
Excellent.
So the next thing is turning radiuses. The apparatus is big. So you'll start to see, and I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but you'll start to see that we have very generous turning radiuses for that reason. But it's a driver in this design.
Mhm.
I don't particularly want to see all that parking when I
Right.
pull in, because as you all know, and on my way here tonight, I stopped and just took a look.
Mhm.
And you can see this down here. But by the way, you never see it straight on.
No.
You see it in perspective. It's not unlike walking down Main Street in Southampton Village, down the center of the street and looking at the buildings. They appear to be all connected. And in fact, most of them are. And it just goes on and on and on. And I'm not saying we're going to that length, but it has that feeling. We need to break it up architecturally. Your code only allows us 3 feet between, and just to show you what we mean by that, here is the property line right here. The max we can be off is 3 feet, or lot line 0. And of course, we want to move it in and out as much as we can to give it some interest. We wouldn't want it just to be a big flat building. And of course, as you start to go up the other levels, we have gables shown here, and then we have shed roofs in the back and the roofs pitched back. It's rather flat in a 2-dimensional drawing, but the reality is, it slopes back. It's not going to feel like a blocky building in any stretch of the imagination. We recognize that although the tower will be missed, there is an element there, and it's really common in some of these other themes, to turn the corner. So we're showing this right here, this bell tower, and we've used it many times, quite often in the village, and it's a historically accurate detail that would work and help you turn the corner as you come in. It is a narrow lot. That elevation shows up here. And here. Scott's going to talk a little bit about parking and all the numbers.
So we have 49 hotel units on 2.5 floors, and they are all hotel suites, 600 square feet maximum. The first floor, actually, the existing buildings that are on the site right now, we are labeling them E, F, C, and D. They equate to 24,097 square feet. Our proposed building on the first, second, and the upper half story will come to 5,000 square feet. So we are increasing this significantly, but at the same time, we are adding 49 hotel units, an indoor pool, a gym, and offices for the employees for the hotel. So there are, and mechanical spaces, laundry rooms, and other things of that nature as well. There is also going to be 4 workforce housing, which parking is accounting for as well. And there were also discussions on staff housing, seasonal staff homes that don't require parking. It's for staff members that are at the hotel that probably wouldn't have a car, but need a place to stay, so you can keep them here so they don't congest the roads further. Let's see here.
And all of that is included.
Yes. So with that, we figure there's going to be 5 to 6 employees that manage this hotel. So we need 1 parking space for every 2 employees, so we have 6 granted there. 49 hotel units plus 4 workforce housing gave us 56 parking spaces, which are all contained within on the site.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Nothing on Radian Way. We've managed to get it all here. Now, we all know that people do park on Radian Way, and that's great, but it all fits within this envelope on this property.
Due to the size of the building, we are also required 3 truck parking spaces, which are also accounted for over by the sewage treatment plant. We have the required handicap spacing as well, which is 5% of the total.
Now, when you mentioned the difference between the existing building and this building as far as square footage, it's actually, that's longer than the building that's there now. So it's not, it's
Well,
longer.
it's multiple buildings. This is one
Right.
continuous.
Correct.
Right,
There are three
Right.
buildings currently. This is
Right.
one.
okay, just for clarity for the
Yep.
public.
Are all 49 units roughly the same size?
Yes, they are.
Mhm.
There are two variants in floor plan layouts. As we get up to the that half story, they rotate 90 degrees. So as the roof comes in, these units have to get elongated. So we had two different styles, which we do have them here as well, but they are all roughly 600 square feet. That way we can fit them within the sewage treatment plant that was approved.
And are they designed with sinks and kitchenettes and whatnot for people to stay there longer, or is it a hotel room?
Yeah,
What's,
so
what,
it's a resort, it meets this definition of a resort, purposely meets the definition of a resort hotel. But it couldn't be, and
so does that
it could be
mean,
anybody's principal residence,
No.
that's,
Right.
yeah, of course.
It's like an
but do you
extended stay
anticipate people
hotel.
staying there like just overnight, or are you gonna stay there for a month, or what's the,
Well, the definition of the code allows a rather long stay there,
Mhm.
because you could be a monthly stay or something like that. But it could be somebody staying there for the weekend also, but the concept is to allow it to be amenable and attract a longer stay as well. That's thus the resort hotel. But again, it can't be anybody's.
and how does the workforce housing work? Is that also on a sort of a rental basis, or are those people getting a longer term lease for that?
Those would be a longer term thing, and they would be subject to the
Mhm.
income guidance and all that stuff that you used to see. We see it a lot. Just finished a 880 unit fully affordable housing client of mine in Quiog, and there are very specific standards in terms of income based upon the size of the units, and so that we would be required to keep within those limitations. I mean, obviously, there are certain emergency personnel and firefighters and teachers tend to get, you can actually
Mhm.
build in some preference for
Mhm.
those people, which I think is good. Because those are the folks that often have, really need, but
Mhm.
often have problems with housing.
Sorry, Scott.
No, quite all right. One last thing is we actually have 21.5% green space on this, considering all the asphalt and the building that is on this lot. We were able to get 21.5% of green space in here. Wasn't easy, but we were able to do it.
Particularly with that 3-foot setback.
Yeah.
But if you look at all, urban design and suburban design and semi-rural design in the last, 20, 25 years, it's all get the parking in the back.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because you want to see that seated parking, that's what we've done, so.
Yep. The entrances to the hotel units are from the back as well.
Mhm.
So you park in the back, you walk in and out from the back.
To a point I made earlier, you're never gonna see it straight on like this. You're gonna see it in perspective. But if there were a parking lot in front of it, you would see the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to go far in the village where we see just that problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Several important corners in the village have parking.
Mhm.
It's the first thing you see, so really going out of our way to avoid that.
I think the indoor pool is an interesting feature. Could you speak about that? And
I'm sorry?
The indoor pool is an interesting feature. Can you speak about that and any design elements? Or is the roof going to let sunlight in or not, or how?
So certainly there will be glass walls shown here. So there's the ability to open it up on the sides, but there's space above it, so there'll be no open roof. But
It's 4 seasons.
yeah,
is the whole
so it's four seasons,
Yeah.
yeah.
Of a folding glass wall of sorts that can let natural breezes in and
How
out.
long is it? 50 feet?
45 feet by 18 feet.
I'm sorry, 20 by 45.
20, sorry. And having it indoor, one of the previous comments from a form application was security. Having an outdoor pool at a resort, you'll have people that are not staying at the resort jumping fence to come and use the pool. So you'd have to account for their parking.
That was one of the comments.
Right. So by moving it indoors, you can fully contain this, and it's a nice secure building.
I found it a somewhat strange comment, but we have tried And by looking at all these comments of these boards, a lot of times I would say, no, I don't have the jurisdiction to say that. But having said all of that, we tried to meet every comment with the boards were making, regardless of whether or not we thought that they were either fair or within those boards' jurisdiction. We nevertheless tried very hard to meet all those concerns.
That's all I have.
That's it?
Any
Scott?
questions?
Kind of it.
No, that's good.
Is this gonna be part of the inn, or is it a separate entity? In other words, will people from the inn be able to go over to the pool? I mean, they're gonna share the resources of the inn and the new place?
No, they'll be independent entities. I'm not saying they may not be. Okay, I'm not saying they may not be, there's overflow necessary, of course there'll be some
But
cooperative.
if somebody wanted to stay there, would they call the inn to make the reservation, or was there a whole separate?
It'll be a separate entity. I'm not saying, well, there may be some overlap, like sister restaurants will refer when they're booked to another restaurant, but this is meant to be a separate entity.
Looks good.
So you wouldn't call the Southampton Inn? I'm a little confused about that. You would? Okay.
Whatever you want.
Trustee Zananti?
It's meant to perform.
I'm watching,
Yeah.
I'm listening to
Purposely-
him and I'm
No,
watching you, so.
but we purposely kept it so that it would be a separate entity.
Well, they're two different types of hotels.
Yes, that's, yeah, I think that's really
Right.
For now, I'm okay. I'll defer my questions for later.
Okay.
So, I'd really like to get to a public hearing on this. I don't think there's anything holding it up. Let's hear what the public has to say.
I'm sure it'll come up, so I might as well ask
Yeah,
it.
please,
The calculations you made to come up with 4 workforce housing units, how did you get to that number?
That's your original approval. 4 workforce housing units. That was what the board originally.
I think there were different numbers though, with different iterations.
If you want to, you probably know this better.
Yeah.
Dee Dee Godhealth with the Southampton Inn. There were originally 49 units in this, so this is exactly the same number of units, and the 4 workforce housing units was a quid pro quo for Viridian being greened over. So that's not part of this plan now. Happy to do it, but it's not part of this plan, and it's part of the resolution that was approved 4 years ago. And just to speak a little bit about the indoor pool, this is part of the mission to bring people into the village of Southampton between Labor Day and Memorial Day, and with an indoor swimming pool and other activities. We're hoping that the business community has a little bit more critical mass to make us a little more lively when it's freezing cold and icy in February on a Tuesday.
Even though sometimes that doesn't seem to happen.
Trying.
I'm
But
talking about, sub-zero temperatures in February.
the only thing I would say though, Dee Dee, is different iterations had different numbers of rooms in the proposed hotel. I mean, I believe there was one version, I think recently that had 44 rooms. This is back up to 49. So there have been, I think, at least 3 iterations I'm aware of.
But the number of units that are in this program hasn't been increased. I may be wrong, but I'm almost positive the number of units hasn't been increased from what was approved, and that's why we're staying with the four workforce housing units. We thought that was an appropriate balance.
Okay.
I may be wrong, and probably am, but somewhere in the back of my head, going back to my planning board days, there seems to be the thought in my mind that there was some sort of percentage calculation on a multi-use development like this of how many units, 10% or some percent, had to be turned over to workforce housing. And
If it was really residential, absolutely. There's no question about that. We don't fall within that. So this is essentially a voluntary. Although, when you say voluntary, clearly it's the whole package to try to get, governmental support. So it's partially voluntary, but you would be right if it was purely residential. There's no question about that. No question about that. mean, even on subdivision stuff, anything like that. Although it's interesting enough, I've always scratched my head. Suffolk County has a requirement for affordable units on a subdivision, which you can avoid by putting in a reduced density subdivision. And how much of a reduced density do you have to provide? 1 unit. So if you had if you had like a 20 lot yield on a subdivision, if you came in with a 19 unit subdivision, you required the affordable housing altogether. So, yeah, but on a purely residential, that's a long way of answering. On a purely residential project, you have to provide within certain guidelines. But this is not. Although, again, we are providing some affordable residences here, which is a good thing.
Okay, well, I appreciate, again, the presentation, Scott, and everybody. And I think at this time, I'd like to, talk to the board members and the attorney who's not here present tonight. Eileen's not here, about when we would go about scheduling the public hearing.
Okay.
I don't have a resolution to do that tonight.
Understand.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that. I would, I'm sort of on bended.
No, I
We could do it quick- as
yes,
quick as
yes.
possible, that's all.
Understand, John. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know, you don't have a resolution here.
Yeah. So, so we'll work on that.
Thanks.
All right. And thank you, Dee Dee, and also everyone for being here to talk about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Dee Dee.
All right.
At
Thank you,
any
John.
time- at any
And
time
Scott.
any questions
Thank you.
arise,
Sure.
There's no need to wait for any.
Oh, no. Absolutely.
Please, you could.
Okay.
Any of the board members or council can send them to me, can send them to John, whatever, any questions anybody has. I want to try to push through this as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
And obviously,
Understood.
I've been very transparent about it.
Yeah. No, thank you. And thank you, John.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. As they are standing down, then next up is Michael Tessitore speaking about the Suffolk County Deer Management. Thank you, Michael. You can come to the podium as they take the plans off the table.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Welcome, Michael.
Hi,
Michael Tessitore, Suffolk County Deer Management. Thank you all for having me today. I'm sure you eagerly are awaiting the numbers. Originally, I said to someone on the planning commission, we don't talk about numbers because it's a long-term program. So we kind of work backwards to see where we're at. And what I'll do is I'll explain it. So years ago, the DEC used to extrapolate how many deer we had, and they stopped doing that because it's not effective. But what I'll say is recreational hunting is ineffective as a management tool because of the fact that we only kill about 10% when we used to count numbers of the deer population through recreational hunting. And if you don't take 23%, you don't cover fawn recruitment. And what that means is when fawns are born in the springtime, that's when you have a higher number, right? So they stopped counting deer. I think it was 2014 area. But data shown from 2006 that they were saying East Hampton had 51 deer per square mile. And when you look at that at a 13% growth for 18 years, you see 170 deer per square mile. So anything over 30, 35 deer per square mile, we see indigenous plant species being destroyed. We see through the forest. What I do is, we're not immune from, conflict, people not supporting the program. But what we do differently than, and the USDA had the same issues in 2014 when they did a program. But what we did was we successfully mitigated any conflict in this village this year through bow hunting. Our program is designed to be effective as a management tool. So we're not recreational hunters. I am not a trophy hunter. I never represented myself as such. So with 6.5 square miles, we operated on 31 properties. We took 103 deer through bow hunting. 3 were unrecovered. 83 of them were female, 20 of them were male. We've had conflicts, just like the USDA would with people that don't support hunting. And we were able to deal with those. If there was an issue where someone didn't want to stand on a property that we had access to, we reevaluated and we moved it. There were some incidents with, hunter harassment and, guys that, had permission or used to have permission in certain areas that weren't happy about us being there. We worked through that as well. I think that the program was an overall success in terms of the numbers at 6.5 square miles and limited to the properties we had. In relation to in 2014, the USDA took 192 deer on 24 large farm parcels using implements and tactics that we did not use. And they only took 192 deer and at a cost of $300,000. There was like $1,562 for each one they took. This program is in its infancy. There are other hunters that do hunt in the village on people's properties. And we can't force anybody. And I'm actually, I'm pro hunting, right? I'm pro hunting agenda. I believe in property owners' rights. So I would never say you can't hunt here. It's up to the property owner to make that decision. So I think what we need in the future would be property owners that say, hey, we want to be part of the solution. And they could do that by participating in this program, giving us access. We ran the program from October 1st to January 31st. We did speak about doing more of a deer management area permit and working with DEC to facilitate something like that. Obviously, we're a summer community here, so we're going to look to not have the program when the village is busy, right? So I think that's important. I think that we established basically a baseline, and that 100 number kind of was a number that I was thinking in my head, and I know that some people on the planning commission had the same idea, and they were happy to see that number. And it was a number that I thought, because from when we worked in Remsenburg at 3.2 square miles, at the time we took 71 does and 2 bucks. So I knew that, we have beaches and meadows and some areas that we can't hunt, right? I knew that the 100 number was kind of where we were looking to be effective, right? To see results. Now, put that into perspective with deer that other hunters that are utilizing the area, how many they took, that number, we don't know. We wouldn't know that number. So I would say overall, I think it was a great program. I do want to point out that in Suffolk County, there has never been a second party bow hunting incident, which means that a hunter has never shot a cat, dog, pet, person. The only thing that hunters did was pretty much injure themselves. But I think that, in my experience, we're going to see these numbers, like say next year, we get more properties. Maybe we'll have an uptick in that number. Maybe it'll be 150, 125. That number will start to come down. And once it reaches a number where we keep hitting the same number, that's that 23%, right? We reached that, we limited the population, and now we're maintaining. So I think that that's important. I also want to point out that only hunting is effective at reducing deer numbers. I think that other approaches feel good, sound good, but they don't work. They're expensive. So with that, I don't know where the village would like to be, but I'll give you one more number that you might like. They say that if you get the deer population down to 15 deer per square mile, you see a 90% tick reduction. Is that possible in this village? If we don't have access to hunt, we're not going to be effective. Those areas become now sanctuaries, so the deer can go to those areas. We did have some people that wanted to participate in the program. They came on late. Some never knew that we had such a program available, and they were happy to hear about that. And I think that next year we're going to have more success, more opportunity. And I also want to point out that, you know, because I know people like to talk about numbers. You know, we had the burden that the USDA didn't have in terms of carrying an extra liability coverage for the village, and we were happy to do so. That cost was for $1 million umbrella, $5 million umbrella policy, and my cost was $5,500. We already have a $2 million policy, so the village was well covered, and we're happy to do that. I promote responsible hunting. All my hunters go through criminal background checks. They go through a vetting process, and they go through a bow hunting and sensitive environments course, and that's what's needed. You can't expect these guys to put cameras out, which we don't use, and just look for deer with antlers on their head. That's not a management program. That's trophy hunting. And that is part of the conflicts that we see when some people call the village or, you know, complain. There's an ulterior motive to that. Whether it be another person that doesn't like hunting, whether it's another hunter that doesn't want us in an area, or if it's someone who likes hiking in the woods and they like to sell the plants that they can pick to their clients. So I understand the territorial aspect of it, and everything we expected happened, was mitigated, and I think it was a total success.
So you require your hunters to capture 2 doe before they get a buck, is that not correct?
They do. So
Okay.
what I do is
So they're not trophy hunters?
they're not just, they're taking more deer than they normally would.
Mm-hmm.
We have access to unlimited doe tags so that we can take more does. Hunters are also consumers, so they're putting in their time as well. So they're volunteering to be part of this program in exchange for access, right? So they want to fill their freezer as well.
So can you explain what happens to the deer once people wonder what happens to them?
Yeah, so we take the deer out in sleds. All of the deer, we don't, so I guess the best way to say it is we don't gut the deer on the properties that we take them, whether they're public land, village owned, or private. They go on a sled, they're taken off so that it's clean. They go in the back of the truck, they go back to our facility, they get processed there, and they're utilized for the hunter, or for, you know, we donate to property owners or other unsuccessful hunters. Numbers wise, again, 25% of hunters kill all the deer. In my group, we have probably like a 45, 46% success rate for people that are able to take them. So,
And food banks?
yeah, we make it available to the food banks. We always have.
And so, Michael, just curious. So, what if you're looking out in the future? What do you think is the time horizon necessary to get the deer population in the village under some control?
That's a planning board commission you're hitting me with, Mayor. We started out late, so we came to an agreement in June. So we were kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball. I would imagine with what we know now and dealing with DEC and getting more tools to not, because, you know, when you fair chase hunt or you hunt based on regular hunting season, recreational hunting season, it's based on fair chase principle. So half hour before sunrise, half hour after sunset, you're limited to your efficacy, right? Because it's meant to be in the favor of the animal, right? But times have changed, you know, technology has changed. So the recreational hunter is now, you know, so busy that they'd rather trophy hunt, right? So what's our time frame? If we can put this package together, I always say it's a 3 to 5 year program to see what the numbers are going to be. Mm-hmm. And to see, I mean, these property owners that we want are going to see instant relief. Now, it doesn't mean that other deer aren't going to move in, because the does do compete for food sources, right? So they bed down in areas like the CPF properties or village-owned lots, you know, lots that are vacant, and then they'll feed, you know, in the yards. They do 3 things, deer. They eat, sleep, and look to make another one of them. And they eat and they sleep 50% of the time. So as we know, deer are more active early in the morning and late afternoon, right? They say they're crepuscular. It's a great word. It's way above my 9th grade vocabulary book, but that's the you know, we have to put that all into perspective, right? So we've had a lot of legislative changes that made it better for us with that half hour before sunrise reduction. That was great, less restrictive. So I think a 3 to 5 year program, I think that we're going to be very happy. I think if more property owners participate and know about the program, they'll be happy. And those that don't want hunting, we're not hunting on their property.
Right.
You know, we're not forcing ourselves on that property, and it's never going to happen. You don't want hunting, we're not going to be on your property hunting.
Did your organization reach out to our property owners, or Gina, did the village reach out? How do we notify our property owners that this
Is available.
program is available?
Well, the planning commission had made a presentation as Michael, he made a presentation, so it was out there publicly,
But there's also word of mouth.
and it's mostly word of mouth.
And next year we might want Nancy Kane to, the village might want to publicize this a little better.
That would help us out immensely. I mean, it was a grassroots program this year. We were knocking on doors. We were utilizing property owners that we've met with in the past, and we focused on the spots that we can. And usually, once we get one property, it expands. One neighbor's like, I didn't even know we can do this. We would love to participate. And one of the good things that we've always done is you can participate in the program by either we'll take 4 or 5 properties and we'll put one tree stand on it, and as long as they all agree that we can be within the discharge setback for the archery equipment, and we have access to recover the deer, we don't have to hunt on every property. We just need to build these lots, so these little like blocks. And I created a great map. Michael Anderson has just been unbelievable with helping me. We've had help from friends of the board. We've had friends from the planning commission, and I think and we've had help from Public Works. With all these people and I can't even say more about Chief Turtow and Angel, and I'm trying to think who else helped us.
So everybody's on board.
Everybody
knows the locations.
Because there were other calls where there's a dead deer on the side of the road, right? And it must be them. No, it's deer get hit by cars too, right? They cause $3,400 in damage every year So deer get hit by cars. Deer get shot by other hunters, right? They get lost by other hunters. We try to work around that. If we've removed several deer, for property owners. So because we're licensed nuisance wildlife control operators, so we're not just we have to have that license.
So we actually average about 40 deer a year that are picked up from being hit by a car just in the village alone. That's it. That's the average. It's been a little bit more and a little bit less.
Yeah.
And
not counting the ones that you don't find also.
Right. That's correct. These are the ones that the
People
people see. They call, and DPW has to pick them up and put them in the mass grave.
Yep.
So
it's
actually more humane too. I mean, at least it's being utilized for food. This way.
This is not scientific, but it has been a kind of word of mouth thing with respect to the humaneness of the bow and arrow technique. What I've been told is that generally speaking, it requires more than one arrow to kill a deer. That usually the first arrow just doesn't do it. And this is disturbing to some people, and I just wonder if you can comment on that and what your technique is.
I mean, frankly, I think it's ridiculous, but that
this is what I'm hearing.
Because I'm gonna.
And again, it's not.
No, I know.
scientific.
So I'm just being forthright, because not all hunters are created equally. Remember, I just said 25% of hunters are successful, right? So with what we do, my guys are trained very specific. Broadside, quarter and away shot, less than 20 yards. Once you start passing 20 yards, you start seeing less success in recovery, right? Whether that means that it was a single lung shot, right? I don't know if deer feel the arrow and it hurts them when they get hit by it. I have no idea if that's the case. This is what I do for a living. Like I said, I don't trophy hunt and I don't recreational hunt. I get paid to do what I do, and I do it effectively. So I would not be as successful as I am in running this program for 11 years if I had to shoot deer with 2 arrows at $30 a piece every time, right? So I didn't mean to say that the question's ridiculous. I've heard it before, and it's usually the other side that uses that talking point to justify humaneness, right? So we're in a residential setting. We can't use rifles in the village, right? So the best way to reduce deer through hunting is with archery equipment. 150-foot discharge setback we have because of that. What that means is that when I draw an arrow and release it, I have to be 150 feet from the neighbor that doesn't want me hunting the closest part of their house, not their property line. Some people get it confused and think it's the property line. It is not. And in some states it's 0% setback. But again, if a property owner next door is that adamant that they don't want the hunting, it's not worth it for us to be there. We have 6.5 square miles here that we can work in other spots. So that squeaky wheel, we're gonna reduce our exposure to problems. 2 shots, no, the arrow goes through the ground. Actually, the reason why we're in tree stands, we don't shoot from ground blinds. I think that's another important thing to bring up. So we're elevated. This way the arrow actually passes through the animal, unless you hit bone like a shoulder shot, spine shot, right? So that arrow goes through the deer into the ground. So the backstop's the ground. That's the safety spot, right? So just like firearm shooting, know your backstop, whatever you point at, you intend to destroy, right? We're very effective at what we do because of training we do, right? We're just not yahoos slinging arrows. Like, people bring up, oh, you just shoot them anywhere through bushes. No, you have to see it. That's why there's no way someone's pet, a child, a person would get in between that shot. 10 yards is that door. So double that distance is the clerk's office, right? I could see anybody walking past me, and anybody that walks past that deer, that opportunity is gone. The shot opportunity doesn't exist. So I've heard that. I think it's a.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much, Michael,
Thank
for
you
coming
all.
in,
Thank
and
you,
thank you for your
Michael.
presentation.
Thank you for the time.
All right. All right. So, Mr. Administrator, let's go to correspondence to the board.
Okay, sir. We have 8 total correspondences to the board. All the correspondences are from the public hearing that we have in regards to pickleball and padel courts. So I just want to read off the names of the correspondences that we have. Brian T. Davis, Eric Rausch, Andrew Kapak and Bernadette Lewandowski, Betsy Conrad, Charles Davis, Rachel Barrett, Kenneth Kleiman, Susan Van, I'll probably say this one tough.
I'm not sure.
Right.
All right.
And that's who we have.
Thank you very much. All right, and now we will move to the proposed resolutions.
Okay. Resolved, the claims for the warrant dated February 20th, 2024, totaling $202,521.51. Warrant number A-16- General Fund, and $3,020.69. Warrant number H-9- Capital Fund are audited and approved.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the fiscal year end May 31st, 2023 audited financial statements as submitted from PFK O'Connor Davies LLP Auditor Services.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the letter of resignation from Charlene Cagle-Betts, Treasurer, Finance Department, effective March 15th, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just,
I know Lynn wanted to say
Len,
something.
well, yes.
I'll defer until my remarks at the end.
Okay. I would just say that again, Charlene has done an outstanding job as the treasurer for this village, and the village owes her a debt of gratitude for her fiscal responsibility and her keen, her keen surveillance of all the monies of this village. And she did a great job getting us a AAA bond rating. And you heard from the auditors earlier tonight that really we have a very, very clean audit. And this is due in a large part to Charlene, not to mention
Together with
Julie.
Julie.
Julie's in it, who's in the room here. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. And with that, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the request for fellow trustee Roy Stevenson to attend our board meetings via Zoom on the following dates: March 14th, 2024, and April 23rd, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Discussion, please.
Oh.
If I could just say, I'm asking for this request because I have two family events that I want to attend on those dates and cannot be here. I've discussed this with the village attorney about whether this is okay to do. She said as long as we notice this and have a resolution, it would be okay. I will check with NICOM following tomorrow and make sure that it is appropriate for me to be able to attend the meetings on Zoom. And if there's any issue, I won't attend the meetings on Zoom, but I do need to be at both of those events for family events, and I'm sorry I won't be able to attend. Up until this point, I have not missed one meeting in 2.5 years. So with the board's approval, I would appreciate that.
Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the letter of resignation from Michelangelo Lieberman as a member of the Planning Commission, effective February 12th, 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Discussion. So Michelangelo Lieberman contacted me and said that he is moving out of the village and is relocating to a new home, and for that reason he asked that he be given his resignation from the Planning Commission. But I want to thank him again for all he did on the Planning Commission. He's been on for several years and been a great addition. And we'll miss him, but thank him very much for his service.
And good work. Yes.
All right, so with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Whereas the World War I memorial located at Agawam Park in the village has undergone a series of separate investigations and studies spanning in the early 1990s through 2022, which were aimed at determining appropriate repair and stabilization efforts during that time period, and which were based upon long-term deterioration processes that have progressively developed. And whereas said past restoration efforts failed largely due to insufficient funding, and whereas the Board of Trustees is anxious to move forward with the needed restoration work by obtaining grant monies to complete such project, and whereas in order to apply for such grants, the village requires a thorough analysis of what is necessary to restore this important memorial. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement with Steward Preservation Services, LLC, for the completion of a report of conditions assessment and recommendations for stabilization and restoration repair for the World War I Memorial in Agawam Park, subject to the approval of the village attorney.
I'll make the motion.
Second discussion, I'd just like to explain that the reason why we're doing this is in order to secure grant money for this. This is necessary considering that work has been done previously on the World War I Memorial. The residents have been very, very generous. We've raised about $100,000, but it's in such disrepair that we're going to need, that's probably only about 25% of the money that we're going to need. So we decided to apply for grants, but in order to see if we qualify for the grants, we have to do send this report and do this study of the work that's been done already. And I've already been in contact with Zach Second off, the village historian that is helping with, and will work together with Stewart Preservation Services to complete this report about the conditions. So we're moving along with this, and hopefully we'll be able to get the grant money.
Thank you very much, Trustee Aresta. All right, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the I Try organization to host their 10th annual bike practices at Cooper's Beach for June 1st, 8th, 15th, and 15th, 2024 from 11 o'clock a.m. through 4:30 p.m. The local non-profit organization is requesting the police fee to be waived for their event.
Okay, I will make the motion for this.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Village of Southampton has received a request to participate in the Cornell University Cooperative of Suffolk County and in partnership with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to conduct nighttime beach surveys on the Bayside Beach located on Meadow Lane. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Village Board approves the surveys to be conducted on approximately 15 nights between May and July for 2 hours, a schedule that has been provided and the Southampton Village Police Department has been notified.
I'll make the motion.
Question.
You have to second
You have to second it
it.
first.
Second?
Question. Does this include privately owned property, or is this just village-owned property?
I believe this is only on village-owned or town or county property on the Bayside. This is for examining the wildlife, specifically horseshoe crabs,
Right.
among other
Thank you.
creatures. We've done this before.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll move to comments from board members.
Sir, we
Sorry.
have
Mr. Mayor, can I ask the village
Oh, yes.
administrator to
Well, so let me just first, sorry, 1 second, Trustee Stevenson. So I know there's a walk-on resolution here, so I would like a motion to have the walk-on resolution entered into the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead, sorry, Trustee Stevenson.
I was just gonna say, making the motion to introduce it. You've
Oh.
done it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, go ahead then.
Mr. Mayor, sir, we have one walk-on resolution this evening, and that is for the sale of the surplus fire equipment. Whereas the Southampton Village Fire Department has declared that their 1995 Ford L9000 2500 pumper tanker VIN number 1FDZY90B1SV A70713 is surplus equipment. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees is in agreement and formally declares such pumper truck excess equipment, and whereas the Village Southampton Fire Department has worked with a broker to sell the used pumper for the best available price, whereas the Southampton Village Fire Department and their broker have found a ready, willing, and able buyer in the town of Morrill, Maine, in the amount of $80,000, inclusive of the broker's fee. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees authorizes the Chief of the Southampton Fire Department and or the Mayor to enter into and execute an agreement with the town of Morrill, Maine, for the sale of the surplus fire pumper, subject to the approval of the village attorney.
Okay, I will make the motion.
Second?
And the only thing I would like to discuss is that, again, this pumper is 29 years old. And again, it was recommended by the chiefs of the Southampton Fire Department that we sell this equipment, and they're unanimous in that. And I think this is actually a very good price that we are getting from the town of Morrill, Maine, for our 29-year-old pumper, and certainly appreciate the money that we'll be able to put into the village coffers. So with that, anyone else have any comments?
No, just want to thank Roy for helping with the negotiations.
Yes, Roy, this was great. And anyway, I think this is
The real work was done by Manny and Ricky and Polis, and they identified this vehicle as being no longer needed because of the other equipment they've acquired. So it really is nice to bring some money back into the Southampton Village Fire Department. So they do a great job. Thanks to them.
Yes, they do.
Okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move, to comments from village board members, and we will start with Deputy Mayor Resta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to report that the new drainage that they've been working on, or the repairs on the drainage, I should say, on Hill Street, are now complete, along with the new drainage that was done on Oak Street. You may have noticed some work that's being done on the corner of Nugent and Windmill Lanes, that little triangle there. It's going to be filled in with brick, and we're preparing to make crosswalks there. So you would be able to walk across Nugent to the library, the mansion, and then also to go the other way between across Nugent Street to the other side as well, because we were asked, I think it was brought up by the Planning Commission and some residents, to make that corner, which is pretty wide. The street is pretty wide there, and it's also on a curve. So that's that work that's being done on that corner. I'm happy to report the remediation of Village Hall is progressing very nicely. We will have that scaffolding out for a while. There's no time on that. It's all contingent upon the weather. So far, except for a couple of days last week, the winter weather has been very cooperative, and they are making progress. And separately, with some of the work that Johnson Controls has been doing to update and secure some of our buildings from the elements, all the windows on the second floor of Village Hall have all been sealed and repaired, and so we're happy to report that they're making great progress on this building. So as everyone knows, a week ago, Tuesday, we had a snow day, and I'd like to the DPW did a fantastic job. I'm just so happy with the way everything went. Everyone had their route. They stuck to it. Everyone in DPW worked as a team, and nothing but compliments of how our road looked. Everything was safe. There were no incidents. And the timing of the salt on the road after the weather had stopped, it was very slushy. The next day, Wednesday, the roads were all clear. And then we had some other snow later on in the week, and because of the treatment of the roadways, the snow didn't stick. It was that I believe it was Saturday when it was snowing all day, and so we didn't have to plow or do anything. It just didn't stick to where the roads were treated because it was done properly, and so it was a good plan, and it worked out very very nicely. If anyone hasn't gone by Southampton Arts Center and look in their yard, we had the privilege this week of myself and my fellow trustees to be part of well, it's not really an opening, but to see the X's and O's. You have to go by. We did this for Valentine's Day. The X's and O, the artwork that was put on the grounds there. It's really very nice. And a little funny story about this is that there was a problem with the lighting. The artist called and said that there was something that was broken in the light, and they couldn't go and get the artwork from the artist on Monday, and we wanted it up for Wednesday for Valentine's Day. So Steve Phillips had about an hour on Tuesday morning before the snow really started pouring, and he calls up James, the artist, and said, "I'm coming to pick it up right now." So they got it up in time before the snow really came down and covered everything, and it was up in time for Valentine's Day. So if you haven't seen it lit up at night, you really should. It's really very, very nice. So I call the X's and O's the original emojis because we used those emojis before they were the other emojis that everybody's using. And saving the best for last is Charlene. I love working with Charlene. No one's as professional as Charlene is, and I wish her all the best in the new chapter in her life. She's going to be missed here. I'm sure you're going to miss her, Julie, too. She's a great mentor. And she really took that treasurer's office and she brought it into the 21st century with all the programs that she implemented. And you heard from the auditors this evening, and it was because of her hard work together with Julie, of course, that we had a stellar report from the auditors. So thank you, Charlene, for everything, and thank you to Julie. And have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Trustee Aresta. Now, Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to say thank you. Today was our tax grievance day, as I'd like to probably say tax appeal day. And I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Bill McCoy, who made things run so smoothly, who was our tax assessor, as well as Danielle Burns as the tax receiver. The entire board was here. The doors were open from 12 to 4, giving the opportunity for our residents to make appeals. And we just want to say once again, thank you for their hard work. And we will be looking over the request and seeing what we can do to best honor those things. And a special time of appreciation and thankfulness for the value and the huge impact that Charlene Kegelbeth has made to this village. We want to thank her for her hard work. We want to thank Julie. They were a dynamic team, but it's wonderful having a professional like Charlene that can impart into a professional like Julie. And Julie, certainly had your kudos this evening from the auditors saying how well your work was done, and we receive it and are grateful for it. So thank you, Charlene. We wish you well in your new season. Julie was so proud of you. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. The nature of village government is transitory. People come and go. There are terms, and but it is always difficult to find intelligent, dedicated, smart people to begin with, like Michelangelo Lieberman, who served on the Planning Commission and always had good ideas and great concern for this village. So it'll be a challenge for the mayor to find another good person to replace him, and we will miss him and thank him for his service. Not to be repetitive, but I also must recognize the great influence that Charlene Kegelbetz had on me. I've been a trustee now 2.5 years, and I cannot tell you what an impression she made on me during that time, for her advice, her knowledge, her friendship. She really knows her stuff, and she's done a wonderful job cleaning up and improving the financial picture of the village. She had a vision for how she saw it getting to be, and she was able to realize that vision, which is not easy to do in village government. Things move slowly and not always the way you want, and she really saw how she wanted to get the zero-based budgeting and get the financial controls and get the software systems going and chain of command, and get Julie involved and start training her up. And all of it comes down to that sterling report we had today from our auditors, who basically I don't think could give a much better report than they did. So I regret the negative experiences Charlene had. I admire the strength she showed dealing with those negative experiences. And I just want to tell her thank you very much for all you did for the village and for me personally. So happy days down in Key West with you and your family, and I hope our paths will cross sometime in the future.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. We'll now go over to Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to applaud Charlene and congratulate her for an outstanding career here in the village. I'd like to recognize her for her strong and transparent financial management of the village's finances, and for the financial reforms that she has introduced, including zero-based budgeting, as well as other reforms that she introduced with respect to software, etc. And with Julie accomplishing a AAA rating for this village, which benefits all of us. A very significant and palpable contribution she's made. congratulations, Charlene, and the best of luck to you, my friend. With respect to the audited financial statements, of course, I'd like to thank Charlene and Julie and the auditors, Jeff and Jennifer, as well as the members of the Budget and Finance Committee who were very involved in the audit and its results. I think of Cuba Gooding's line in Jerry Maguire when he says, "Show me the
Show me the
money,"
money.
and that's exactly what the financial statements do. And those statements show the financial activities of the village are sound and solid. And lastly, I'd like to give a shout out to this board for passing the resolution with respect to the iTry organization and use of Cooper's Beach. The organization is fantastic for empowering middle school girls by providing free of charge equipment, training, and transportation to accomplish their goals. I've seen firsthand in my family how important and transformative this experience can be for these young women. So I think it's all good. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Trustee Zananti. I spoke a little bit about Charlene earlier, and to use an accounting term, she was a real asset to this village. And again, I thank her for all she did to improve the financial condition and the reporting of this village. And once again, the auditor's report shows the diligence paid off. I also would like to thank DPW and all of the employees. I think at one point we had 16 trucks out on the road during the snowstorms. We had that one on Tuesday, but then we also had a little bit of snow last weekend, and both times they performed outstandingly. I also want to thank James Ding for his loan of the XOXOs that we placed in the SAC, on the SAC grounds, very visible from Job's Lane. I think this was a great opportunity to have art in the park, and I'm glad that he reached out to me and made this offer, and I was able to accept on behalf of the whole board his again installation at SAC. And I think it's a lot of fun in the middle of winter here to have something visible and something that lights up at night in that darker area of the village, especially this time of year. And I would just mention that this Saturday, the 24th of February, SAC is reopening for the season with a show all about books. That opening will be, again, this Saturday, the 24th of February from 5 until 7 p.m. And there will be someone honored for making a rather large donation to the SAC, and I will be presenting a proclamation at that time. I do want to mention that starting, I believe, next week, we're going to begin the process of repaving the West Main Street parking lot and also redoing the islands there so that they are rain gardens, again, capturing stormwater runoff from the parking lot and again, cleaning that with the plantings that will now be in newly installed islands in the West Main Street parking lot, and it will be completely repaved. This is being done with grant money. It's well over $800,000 for this project, so it's a large project. We're going to be starting at the north end, which is the Nugent Street end, and working south. But there will be times, obviously, when sections of the parking lot will just have to be closed down for this work to take place. We're trying to do it now, again, when that parking lot is not as full as it will be come May. And so I just want everyone to bear with us as we repave the parking lot, but I think everyone will be very pleased with the outcome and the improvement to the surface in the parking lot. And finally, I would just like to echo what Trustee Brown said. I believe it was the first time ever that the mayor and all trustees sat through the entire tax grievance day for any resident that had a concern or questions or again, wanted to appeal their village taxes. We take the village taxes and grievance day very seriously, and we wanted to ensure that this board showed that to the residents, and we had all 5 members here for the entire time from 12 until 4, with the doors open for the public to see what we were doing, completely open. And I think we again, showed great respect to those that came in to appeal their taxes. And I appreciate those that took the time to put together their appeal and, again, showing comparables and the like. And I just wanted to thank this board, again, for their dedication to staying here this afternoon to meet all that wanted to come in and have their taxes grieved. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for contractual matters. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The time now is 8:18. We are coming out of executive session where we discussed contractual matters. No action was taken. At this time, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good night.